Good afternoon, everyone. Wow, this light is really bright, so I cannot really see your face, but hopefully you can see me, right? That's the point. But good afternoon. Thank you so much, John, for the introduction, and thank you very much for having me here today. So very honored to be able to just share with you a little bit about my line of work, and also want to transition towards the end, share a little bit about my own personal journey, because when Chen Wong, I knew him from my previous work at Siemens. When he called me about this talk, he actually told me, Sonita, talk less about technology and more about leadership and journey. So I'm going to transition at the end and do that. And I think we will also have some time at the end for a fireside chat with John where we can do a Q&A. So what I want to do this morning, so first, I do have a presentation, so sorry about that, but it's easier to actually talk a little bit about my line of work with slides, just so that you can have the image in front of you. But what I want to talk about first, just a little bit about my work in 3D printing, especially within the context of enabling digital transformation and creating impact. So with that, let's start. So first, I want to talk about disruption. When you think about it, disruption is not always obvious. And in fact, history is littered with some very smart, technologically savvy people who make the wrong prediction about the future. Almost everything that we take for granted today, from AC electricity to our cars, to our cell phones, to the internet, was at one point or another was discounted by some of the brightest minds in the industry. I'm not going to read one by one, but you can kind of like glimpse on it. So as you can see, predicting the future is hard, if not almost impossible. It requires a certain humility and also the ability to imagine what's possible. So you know that you're going to be wrong one way or another, but it's important to always, keep an open mind and imagine what's possible. So now let's fast forward from history to where we are today. There's so much change and disruption happening around us, especially where I live. I live in San Francisco, and I've been in the Bay Area for 25 years. Just always like new things happening, this disruption, that sometimes I think we forget how fast things are changing. So only 50 years ago, a computer could fill an entire room, right? But today, we have more computing power in our pockets, in our cell phones, compared to what NASA had in 1969 when they first put the first man on the moon. So in the next few slides, I just want to share with you a few examples of how fast things are changing. So the first example, he was laughing because he knows who this person is, but the first example was last year, an AI wrote the first short sci-fi thriller movie starring David Hasselhoff. And since I cannot see you, so I don't know from which generation you came from, but when I was growing up, he was a famous TV actor. He had movies like, Knight Rider and Baywatch and so on and so forth. So the sci-fi thriller that was written by the AI, starring David Hasselhoff. Also, during the same year, another AI wrote the next Game of Thrones book because it was taking George Martin too long. 2 years ago, a robot named Xiaomi in China, she passed her medical exam, the first for a robot. And not only did she pass a medical exam, she actually passed it with the flying colors because she scored 96 points above the passing grade. And also during the same year, another robot named Sophia. I was actually wondering how come all these robots are female, but they are. Sophia passed her citizenship test in Saudi Arabia, of all places, and she got a citizenship. And 3 years ago, Otto, aptly named self-driving truck company that was eventually bought by Uber, actually. So Otto successfully made its first delivery attempt. And finally, when I read the report, he was delivering, it's funny now, it's a he, because he was delivering 50,000 cans of Budweiser beer from a brewery in Fort Collins, Colorado, over a 120-mile journey to Colorado Springs. But the point is, he's a truck driver, so he is Otto, right, instead of Sophia. But the point is, as you can see in some of these examples, the rate at which change and innovation happens is really increasing exponentially. And all of these are fueled by technology that is becoming cheaper, faster, and more powerful. So you may ask, kind of like, what does this mean exactly? And the implications is that things are just becoming faster and faster to come to market, where new ideas and products and services are being adopted faster and faster into the fabrics of our life. So as you can see in this example, it took the telephone 75 years to reach 50 million users. But today is very different. You know, when people talk about adoption, it's very different from the past. It only took Facebook 3.5 years, and the Pokemon Go game. I don't play games, I don't know what it is, but it's a very popular game. It took them 19 days to reach 50 million users. So the question that you may ask is, what does this mean? And how can you thrive and be successful in the midst of all these changes and disruptions, right, happening around us? And I think it's all about having the right mindset and the right attitude, because you have a choice. You can either be a victim of change, or you can be an agent of change. And I would imagine most of us would want to be that agent of change, right? And in order to do that, you have to keep an open mind, have a growth mindset. Sometimes you might even have to disrupt yourself before others disrupt you. And in this case, I'm talking about both companies, but also individually. And then you also have to continue to evolve yourself, which is fitting, because the theme of this conference is about the evolution of you. So keep evolving and reinventing yourself. So now I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and talk about my particular area just at a very high level. So one of the changes that is happening in many, many industries, I'm sure you've heard about it, is digital transformation. This is a word that is like very hyped and used, in many places. And most people would be like, what is digital transformation exactly? So for me, my definition, the simple definition of digital transformation is really about the applications of digital technologies and also the blending between the physical and the digital world to help companies do or achieve three things. The first is to help companies to improve operational efficiencies for their own operations internally. The second is to help companies to be able to offer superior customer experience for their end consumers externally. And the third one, which is the hardest, especially for incumbents, for big companies who've been around for a long time, is to create new business models, new revenue streams that wouldn't otherwise be possible. And this third business model area is actually delivering real value, not just to the companies, but more importantly to customers and eventually to society. And so it is really within kind of like that digital transformation context that HP right now has a new business. It's brand new, 3 years. So they just launched this new business 3 years ago, focusing on 3D printing and digital technologies and digital manufacturing. So what HP is trying to do is to leverage their heritage, their printing knowledge, their printing heritage, and also this digital technology that they invented to help enable digital transformation in the manufacturing sector. Our vision is to help change the way the world designs, manufactures, and distributes products and services. And for me personally, for someone who's been in kind of more industrial infrastructure space for like the last 10 to 15 years, this is exciting because, 3D printing together with other advanced technologies like AI, industrial IoT, robotics, big data analytics, truly have the potential to be the catalyst for that fourth industrial revolution. And so for me personally, just to be able to be a part of that is exciting because it is aligned with kind of like what I'm looking for in my career. So with that, I actually want to just switch gears a little bit and share with you a short video that showcases how even today 3D printing is already making an impact in people's lives.
Bara is a young girl who was born very early. She has hyperextension in knees and collapse of foot. That's why she needs orthosis.
Invent Medical is a biomedical startup that is focused on the application of digital technologies in the field of custom-made orthotics and prosthetics.
3D printed helmet helps us to use a minimal invasive technique for treatment of craniosynostosis.
With multi-jet fusion technology, we are able to design and print out directly the final product. The process is faster and the product is lighter and more comfortable.
We compare the plastic orthosis and the 3D printed orthosis, and the result was better if wearing the 3D printed orthosis.
Tato ortéza je velice lehká, tenká a vleze se do téměř každých bot, co u předchozích bot nebylo. Byl problém koupit boty, protože byly příliš mohutné, masivní, takže to nešlo. Bio.
We design a perfectly fitting device with few clicks in few minutes, and the device is printed to the next day and delivered to be fitted to a patient. With HP, we can make not only custom-made advanced products, but also products that are affordable.
3D printing technology will change our industry, the field of custom-made orthotics and prosthetics.
Pro Štěpánka je lepší tahle helma, protože je lehčí, má v ní víc prostoru, má lepší motoriku a je v ní spokojenější.
With 3D printing by HP, we can disrupt the whole industry by providing patients all around the globe with new advanced products that can improve their lives.
All right, so now actually I want to close kind of the presentation part by switching gears a little bit and just share a little bit about kind of my career journey. So looking back, I don't think I always knew what I wanted to do, like most people. But when I really think about my journey, there have been some themes that I think have been pretty consistent throughout my life. And I want to just share with you some of those themes today. The first one is actually, at least for me, is the importance of having some guiding principles. So when I finished college, a long time ago, I majored in, we were talking about it, industrial engineering, or IE. And most of my friends who are, electrical engineers and mechanical engineers, chemical engineers, always said, Sonita, IE is imaginary engineering because you're not really making anything, right? But, I like math, and I like optimization. And so I thought industrial engineering was a good combination of engineering and business where I can apply kind of my math and analytics background. But anyway, when I graduated college, wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and so I tried many things. I actually started a company with two of my classmates, and then I think we were fortunate, able to do that for a couple years, and eventually sold it to a larger competitor. Then I worked in software in several companies, startups in Silicon Valley, and I tried management consulting with Bain in San Francisco. Still wasn't kind of sure, like which industry or what functional areas, and so I decided to go back to graduate school. And to be completely open and honest, I decided to go back to graduate school. Of course, I wanted to learn, but also I kind of thought of graduate school as a place where you can explore, while you're learning, but you can also explore. So it was, I think, in graduate school that I started developing, just a few guiding principles, at least for myself. The first is I realized I really love this intersection of new technology, new business model, and a little bit of policy. And then the second, I wanted to work in an area that is contributing something more to society rather than just selling a product. And so after graduate school, still wasn't sure which area I should go into, but at least, now I have two guiding principles, and I leverage that to navigate throughout all the options and the choices and all that. And the past, 10, 15 years or so, somehow have always been involved with some kind of digital transformation, be it in the energy space, in industrial IoT, with Siemens, and then now in 3D printing and digital manufacturing with HP. So that's the first theme. The second theme, and it took me a while actually to get to the second theme, is just trying to combine kind of like my passion, which is what I like, with my skills, which is what I'm good at, because, you know, like, I don't know about you, but I might like something, but, you know, might suck at it, so I'm not gonna be successful. So, you know, trying to combine my passion, my skills, and eventually kind of my purpose, right? And it took a while to actually get here. So as I became more established in my career, you know, have an opportunity to mentor some young people. And I think I noticed with young people these days I think they mistakenly believe that in order to be happy or successful, they have to focus on their passion. And a lot of young people that I mentor, they focus on their passion so much. You know, they would go to a company, work for like 2 months and say, oh, this is not my passion. I need to find the next thing, right? But I think that is wrong, because when you only focus on the passion alone, you're truly only focusing on yourself. But then when you focus on like how you can combine that passion with skills, and most importantly purpose, you actually shift the frame of reference from you to how you can become a valuable contributor to society. And ironically, you become less self-absorbed and more genuinely, you know, likely to be genuinely happy. And this paradigm shift of thinking for me is very powerful, because I think maybe for the first, you know, 5 to 8 years of my career, it was all about me, what do I want, what's next, blah, blah, blah. But I think like later on, then you started, you know, to try to combine this passion with skills and purpose. At least for me, I got a lot of satisfaction out of it. And when I don't think too much about how to become happy or what's next, things just seem to flow better and more naturally, and then it all works out. And another thing I also noticed for me, and also for, you know, some of my contemporaries, is when you're working with a purpose, you also feel that you're being compensated in the biggest ways, you know? Sure, there is the financial aspect, but most importantly is the human satisfaction aspect. So at least for me, I'm always looking for ways where I can combine that passion and skills and purpose. And the last theme is, you know, just knowing what is truly important in your life. And I think for most people, that is family. And for me, it is family as well. I actually do not have children by choice. So my family is basically my husband, who lives in San Francisco, and my elderly mother, who lives in Jakarta, Indonesia. And of course, you know, throughout my career, I work hard. There were times that I have to kind of sacrifice time spent with them because I was pursuing my career. But looking back, I don't think I'll ever exchange, you know, career success at the expense of time spent with them, or, you know, valuable relationship with them. And actually on the way here, I read an article on the plane that said that Bill Gates and Warren Buffett both said actually that the one true valuable asset in life, other than life itself, of course, is time. And in a sense, I kind of agree with them, because your time is finite and you can never get your time back. And so as you go through your own journey, you know, you have to decide what's important for yourself. And I think everyone is different. And depending on where you are in your journey, priorities change, you know, environment change, situations change. So you have to make that decision for yourself. But eventually, you know, you have to know what's important, and then you have to prioritize your time and your actions wisely. So with that, actually, I would like to conclude the presentation part of the session.
So at this point, we're going to retire to the living room here. And it would have been great if we could have afforded an LED screen that had a fireplace on the background. But
yes,
we'll turn this into a city-side chat instead. Sonita, you talked about the importance of having a growth mindset to succeed, you know, in the midst of all these changes and disruptions that are happening all around us every day. Can you share some perspectives on how somebody might develop that sort of growth mindset?
Okay, yeah, good question. I think the core of growth mindset is really about having the right positive attitude and actually want to keep evolving and improving yourself. And one way that people do this, and actually in consulting this is very common, is by continuing to seek constructive feedbacks. And I actually have a story about this. The truth is, most people are actually not good at feedbacks, you know, and in fact, most of us suck at it, you know. And you might ask, why is that? Well, actually, there is a physiological reason for that. So Harvard did a study and found that physiologically, you know, feedbacks trigger three reactions to human beings. The first is the truth reaction, the truth trigger. Basically, what it is like when you hear a feedback, especially if it's constructive feedback, your first reaction is actually to look for what's wrong with the feedback. And then the second is relationship trigger, which is how you feel about the feedback, is partly related to who's giving you the feedback. It's whether it's someone that you respect or not. And then the third one is the identity trigger, which is the most important, like how you act or how you emotionally internalize the feedback. Most of it depends on what the story that you're telling yourself about the feedback. And actually, the story I want to tell is like, so I went to Berkeley a long time ago, and you know, there's some high achievers there. I had some classmates who were, you know, Olympic athletes, right. And you know, that was actually the first environment that I witnessed, you know, like growth mindset, and also how people deal with constructive feedbacks. So I want to just kind of like fill the room and see. So who do you think are the happiest among Olympic medalists? Gold, silver, or bronze? Bronze. And why is that? No, actually you're wrong. The happiest is actually the gold medalists because they just won gold, right? So it's the second happiest. Okay. And you said it's the bronze, so why is that? Say it again. They just made it into the podium. Exactly, which is true. But the way I look at it, it's all because of their first reaction and perspective, right? For us, the third party, the silver is better than the bronze. But the silver, what he's thinking is like, shoot, I just lost the gold. Right. But the bronze is like, my God, thank God, I medaled. So it's all about a perspective. Right. Right? And right? Totally. Exactly, totally. But my point is, what I noticed about some of these classmates who are Olympic athletes is like, no matter what their first reactions were or how they felt, they kept continue, you know, like looking for feedbacks, wanting to like improve themselves, and even after they're no longer athletes, you know, they're actually very competitive in the work environment. Exactly. So my point is, growth mindset is all about the positive attitude and actually being uncomfortable and look for feedbacks, you know, and I think consulting actually do a lot of that. Yeah, totally agree. You've got an incredibly diverse background, quite the experience, ranging from entrepreneurial things to management consulting to venture-backed Silicon Valley companies and now global Fortune 100 companies. So given your time in both Fortune 100 companies and fast-paced startups, which environment do you prefer and why? And how do you know when's the right time to take your next step in your career? How do you know when to move on? Good question. Yeah, so I think there are always pluses and minuses, right, with each, you know, Fortune 100 versus startup. Fortune 100, as you know, usually big brand, everyone knows the brand, you don't have to explain, you know, who it is. Perhaps if you have a new product, you have to explain what the new product is, but you don't have to explain who the company is. Right. And also when you work for like a big company, usually you're working at a much larger scale in terms of, you know, the responsibility is usually bigger because the revenues are bigger, the team are bigger, the budget are bigger, so larger scale. But not necessarily larger scope, because usually if you're in a big company, you're very specific in this certain area. It might be large scale, but not scope. And also large companies just have a tendency to be bureaucratic, you know, slow to innovate, because at the end of the day, it's all about risk management. When you're a big company, you're managing big risk. Even when you innovate, it's for the sake of like, it's within the constraint of risk management. That's my opinion. But then with a startup, on the other hand, you know, you have a lot of aspirations, inspirations, but you don't have resources, right? Or, you know, you have limited resources. But at the same time, you can be more nimble, you can wear many hats, you know, going back to my scale versus scope. At startup, you have scope because you wear many hats, learn many things, but you don't have scale. And so I think it just depends on what kind of person you are, where you are in your career. I think for me, so I've done all, but interestingly, in the past few years, I have always been involved with a new business within a big company. So, you know, in a sense, it's kind of like a startup, but within the constraint of a big company. Yeah, could be both like a curse. Could be both like a blessing, but also a curse.
Best of both worlds.
That is the best of both worlds. Yes. And then your other question, John, about when is the right time? Yeah. I don't think you will know when is the right time, because even when I got this job from HP, I was actually at Siemens at that time, and I was very happy, you know, because I like my team, I like my boss, I like what I was doing, and even though Siemens is a really, really large conglomerate, again, I was in a new business of Siemens. It was like a startup industrial IoT platform of Siemens, which is, you know, exciting. And then I got a call, you know, from HP, just random call, and they said, yeah, it was random. They called and they said, hey, we have actually at that time, they couldn't even say what it was first, but they said, hey, we have something we're going to launch very soon. Would you be interested to talk? You know, and I entertained the approach and all that, and then eventually I decided to go. When I look back, it's not like I knew that was the next thing, and if anything, I was very happy at Siemens, actually extremely happy, and I felt I was just beginning to like do this, you know, exciting thing. But then another opportunity happened, and I saw that as a challenge, because actually what HP wants to do, if you think of HP, it's really traditionally not an industrial company. It is not, you know, it's more a consumer products type of company. But what they're trying to do here with 3D printing and digital manufacturing is really to disrupt kind of the more industrial world, which is what I truly understand. And so I felt, you know, so to answer your question, I guess I'm going the roundabout way here. I don't think you'll ever know, you know, opportunities come your way. You know, sometimes you feel like, yeah, I want to try this. Other times you feel like, hey, maybe it's not the right time. I don't think you will ever know when is the right time. But just in general, if you feel that you have contributed and made an impact, and you've learned and grown, and then you're ready for the next big challenge, then take it. Or on the other hand, if you feel like you're no longer growing, have been doing the same thing for a very long time, that can also be an impetus to try something new.
Right. It's always scary taking that next leap, and you're never quite sure if you're making the right decision, moving on to the next thing. A more broad question: how can we get more women leaders in technology? It's an important issue that IEEE and we are addressing, and what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so on that, I think first it has to start with intellectual capital at an early age. And what I meant by that is, I think parents, you know, teachers, schools, communities have to work together and encourage girls to actually want to study math and science. And I think girls need more role models that are good in math and science, and also know that it's cool to be good in math and science, and it's not just for the boys.
Right.
So that's intellectual capital at an early stage. And then the other one that I also think is, it's very important, I think, for girls to have role models, mentors, and sponsors at all levels of the organization. You know, sure, you want to have these role models who are the C-level and the successful entrepreneurs and the senior executives, which is great for inspiration, right, and aspiration. But it's also important to have, you know, those relationships with people who are just 1 or 2 steps ahead of you in the career.
Absolutely.
Because then it makes it more realistic, you know, while you have the aspiration, of course, always keep it out there, but it is also clearer to you as to the path, the next step, the next path. If you also have in your ecosystem people who are like a step or 2 steps ahead of you, it makes it more realistic as to like how, you know, you can go through the journey to get to wherever you're gonna, you know, want to end up eventually.
I think that's great advice in general is, first of all, surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, and people who come from different backgrounds and can show you the way.
Yep.
Always be learning. Since we have you here and you're in the 3D space, and I'm sitting looking at this amazing phone case here that's 3D printed with your name on it and everything, can you tell us some of the interesting and exciting things that are going on in the applications and 3D printing, and also, what's ahead? Like, where are we going in the next 5, 10 years? What do you see
Yeah,
things?
okay. Yeah, so there's so many different applications for 3D printing. It's really endless, from the automotive to aerospace to medical to consumer products, you name it. Basically, for those of you who may not know, so 3D printing is basically used for 3 things. So one is functional prototyping, or what some people call rapid prototyping, and then 2 for manufacturing aids, and then the third one, which is the most important actually, is for final part productions. And 3D printing has been around for 30 years actually, but in the past had been primarily used for prototyping. But with the advancement of technologies getting faster, and more reliable, and also the knowledge of the people who design it, they can design it for 3D printing. I think we have seen more and more industrial applications, in the past few years. Right. So, John talked about my, and I'm sorry you guys don't see it, but, I have an iPhone case here who is 3D printed using a lattice structure. So it's a new kind of design lattice structure, and also had my name on it, which is mass customization. So one application where 3D printing is a very good kind of product market fit is this whole concept about mass customization. So each product is different, but you have to print a lot of it. Another kind of mass customization applications is eyeglasses, eyewear that can be best customized to fit your face and your head. And then dental aligners that can be customized again to best fit your teeth and mouth. And then orthotics and prosthetics, as what you saw in the video, can be best fit, customized to best fit your body. But while all of these medical and consumer applications interesting, what HP also wants to focus on is on industrial applications, especially in automotive. So with the advent of, electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles, there will be new platform, new car platforms coming out that will cause a lot of their parts that needs to be 3D printed, because when you have an electric vehicle, an autonomous vehicle, you want it to be lightweight, and 3D printing parts are usually lighter, in weight, to increase, car efficiencies, and also to increase the consumer experience inside the car. And so we're working with many, leading automotive companies, one of which is Volkswagen. They've gone public. And they're basically looking to leverage HP technology to kind of help them with their digital manufacturing journey.
So are we headed to a place where, car parts inventories, and massive warehouses will be a thing of the past? Or are we going to get to that place in the next 5 or 10 years, where I've got a 20-year-old car that parts would have no longer been made or whatever, and I just call up somebody and say, yeah, I need this, and day later, 2 days later,
that is
printed
actually possible, and it is actually one of the applications that is being used today. Yeah,
it's amazing. Before we wrap things up, just wanted to touch on leadership one more time. What advice do you have for other professionals who want to move up the leadership ladder? I mean, this is the evolution of you. Folks are looking how to take their careers to the next level, to the next stage, whether they be early career or mid-career or heck, even late career, and still want to move up and leverage new opportunities. What advice do you have for folks who want to make that move?
Yeah, sure. So I guess in addition to kind of like what I shared with you before on the themes, I think first is just embrace change, have a growth mindset, embrace change, go outside of your comfort zone, because then you're going to stretch yourself. And then the second is actually learn from your mistakes, I think especially coming from Silicon Valley, they always say fail often and fail fast. And there is some truth to that, because I think if you never make mistakes, that is actually the biggest mistakes, because that means you've never really gone outside of your comfort zone, right? And I personally think perfection is overrated.
Agreed.
And then the third thing is, celebrate small victories, because, life is a journey. I'm sure everyone here agrees. It's a long marathon. It's not a sprint. So don't wait for that one big glorious moment to celebrate.
Absolutely.
But, every single little improvement, little victories, you should celebrate, because it encourages you that you're in the right, path. And then last, kind of like more practical, I guess, is, have mentors and sponsors. And I think most people understand the concept of mentors, but maybe not everyone understands the concept of sponsors. You know, a mentor, someone you change ideas with and give you good advice. Sponsor is someone who's usually, you know, higher up in the organization, more powerful, who's like willing to actually advocate for you to help you earn the opportunity to get ahead. And of course, you know, you have to earn it. You have to prove yourself that, you know, you deserve that opportunity. Yeah, I would say those are kind of like my practical advice.
Excellent advice, and I believe we are out of time.
All right.
Sonita, I really thank you for speaking to the audience here and appearing at EVO19. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.